Welcome back. I'm with Kevin Malunga, the Deputy Public Protector. And of course, there are many matters that the Public Protector's Office has dealt with besides that matter of Pravin Gordhan, which will be on the agenda for some time. And I'm also interested to hear more about the former mayor of Tshwane, Soli Msimanga's matter. But before I get to that, let's deal with the Estina Dairy matter, which is a controversial report that has now been taken to the courts. What's going on there? When you read the provisional report, there are specific actions that are recommended that should be taken by the Premier, by the different officials in the Free State were implicated. And then, in the most recent report, such action is not being called for. What happened?
Okay, again, that is something that is sub judice in the sense that obviously the courts hasn't been dealt with in finality by the courts in terms of the to and fro in litigation. So it would be, unwise of me to get into the merits. But what I can confirm is that this was something that was in the purview of Parliament. At the time, the Justice Portfolio Committee raised concerns and said, look, why are the political role players not being held to account? And so there is an investigation that is underway where the political role players have been interviewed. My understanding is that, of course, a part two, just like we've done PRASA 1 and PRASA 2, there will be findings that will deal with this particular issue, some of the issues that you're raising.
But, the judge on this matter was very scathing of the Public Protector's Office. Where did the judge miss the point?
He's not missing the point. I think we have to respect the courts, and of course, as I say, we're a constitutional institution, and there is an investigation currently underway that deals with many of the things that the judge has raised in the judgment. So maybe I think that was probably not clarified to him. But that said, this is a constant evolutionary process, and the quality of investigations gets better and better. And I think the law has been clarified with greater precision than before. When I worked with the former public protector, we didn't have the benefit of the EFF versus Speaker judgment, which said this remedial action is binding, and what happens when if you have a court, if you don't like remedial action, then you take it on review. So we are in that space with this particular matter and others. And of course, my understanding is that, of course, if someone doesn't like remedial action that we have issued, they can take it on review. And of course, it's immediately active. And of course, the courts have made it clear that it is binding. And there's various schools of thought, but my understanding is really that you really need an interdict to stop this from
the political parties have already said, as a result of that judgment, that at the earliest opportunity they would like to investigate, not all of the parties though, I must point out, the DA in particular, and some members of the ANC have indicated the same, that they would like to have a discussion on the fitness of the current public protector to hold that.
Yeah, well, but Tim, I'm not a member of any political party.
Yeah, I'm saying on the basis of the judgment of the court.
Yes, indeed. And so what I'm going to say is I'm not a member of a political party in this country, and or any other country for that matter. So I am not qualified to speak on behalf of political parties and what they think and what they plan.
The matter of the former Tshwane mayor,
yes, because
it's political as well, and that should be of interest to anyone who cares about politics, is now the head of the opposition in Gauteng.
Yes.
But there's not really much clamoring for him to step down and other such calls being made. But how serious is that finding anyway?
It was serious. Remember, it covered a number of things such as appointments and, of course, the failure to apply his mind.
Yes.
There was a Marita Okamp, and I assisted with the initial interviews of Mr. Msimanga, and so it's interesting that this thing clearly does not belong to any political party. Whoever is in government is held to account equally and in a similar fashion. So it is of very significant magnitude, but the reality is that the mayor was no longer the mayor.
When the recommendation has been made.
Yes,
and therefore there cannot be any remedial action of sorts.
It will be in terms of the systems and processes that they must clean up their recruitment system and etc. etc. But of course, in regard to Mr. Msimanga himself, that he has left. And it's an old challenge that we have with remedial action. I remember when we worked on the Dinah Pule matter, the Parliamentary Integrity Commission had already dealt with her matter, and she was no longer a minister and so forth. So by the time you issue a finding when someone has gone, even the Fikile Mbalula issue of his travel, he was no longer a minister. So with those type of matters, when you issue your remedial action, it has limited reach in the sense that the person is no longer a public functionary, but the handicaps and the mistakes that led to that can still be addressed, because usually in that particular one is really an issue of the nature of the appointments and how they appoint. It was most like Wild West.
So it's like fixing the system post the fact, right? Let me move on to other reports that did not enjoy as much publicity as they should have. One is the Prasa matter that I want you to comment on that, and the other one is the funeral expenses during the
Carol Bauer.
Yes.
Carol Bauer. So there were 6 reports. The one was the funeral expenses of the events. And of course, there we found negatively against the former DG of Mpumalanga, Dr. Nonhlanhla Mkhize. And of course, she has since moved to be a DG in KwaZulu-Natal. And again, there it was, we're talking about the deviations that were made and the expenditure that was eventually irregular. Again, that's a matter where we are not just going after individuals, but we're also cleaning up systems of procurement. The Mandela funeral debacle as a whole just speaks to that people can just do a thumbsuck and procure and so forth, and it's unacceptable. There's also the Secretary of Parliament, Mr. Mkidlana. There were some unsubstantiated and substantiated allegations of abuse of power regarding a number of things, appointments, expenditure, and so forth. That's another one. There is also the Prasa one, the former CEO. Again, we in both ways so Prasa is a continuing matter, because we still have things in the system where people are pursuing other matters.
But here's the thing that probably can help us understand where the other institutions that are there to deal with these matters come in. You, as the public protector, the Office of the Public Protector, you conduct these investigations after receiving the complaints, and then you arrive at certain conclusions and make some recommendations, right? But the public, the citizens, want to know what happens then. I mean, you make the recommendations, systems must be improved, but a lot of public money would have been lost in the process. Are you able to recover that money, and are you able to pursue, let's say, charges against the implicated individuals, especially in the case where serious wrongdoing has been reported?
Yes, in the past few years, thanks, Berchim. In the past few years, one of the challenges has been that sometimes you have a report with remedial action that says there's potential criminality here. Can we hand over to certain other bodies and they look into it? But then there was not much of an appetite to take it further. So hopefully with the reinvigoration of the NPA and other discussions around asset forfeiture and so forth, we will see the system biting a bit more. So the public protector has been successful in telling you the wrong things that are happening and trying to remedy them. But certainly we don't prosecute. We're not a court of law. We're not. So we are an anti-corruption directorate / ombud.
Yeah, and it's the very important point that you are making in that regard, because once you've published reports, from the public's point of view, the expectation is that prosecutions must follow.
Yes.
And some tough action, or some assets should be recovered,
Yes,
and that's
indeed.
not your purview, right?
Yes, and I
It's
think
other people's purview. But
Absolutely.
how many such recommendations or reports have you handed over to, say, the Hawks or
over
the NPA?
over the years,
time,
I don't have the actual figure on me, but
Yeah.
we've been doing it all the time
Yeah.
since I have been Deputy Public Protector, and I think what probably needs to happen now is a better synergy between your NPA and Public Protector. But you recall that the Zondo Commission, which people love so much, is a product of a recommendation in Public Protector remedial action that said, look, the state of capture report says, no, we don't have enough resources and time to be able to investigate something of this magnitude. So now we gave you a greasy and all the other issues because we said this commission must happen, and this commission has happened, and people are happy.
But here's the point, which I know you probably appreciate much more than I do.
Indeed.
Because it's in your line of work.
Indeed.
You investigate, probably even at the personal level. Say, what's the point? We compile these reports, we say this, we come up with findings, we depend on the media to take the information to the public. The media will pick and choose and highlight one or two of those reports. But ultimately, you too would like to see some action being taken against those that you have recommended that disciplinary steps be taken. What do you think should happen then? What is the next thing that we should see in the public domain that shows that indeed accountability is being upheld, and number two, corruption is being pushed back?
Thank you. South Africa should be very pleased that these systems are actually in place, because the idea was to ensure that there's no impunity in this country. The fact that we're currently investigating the president, and we've investigated previous presidents, a previous president and other high-profile people means that no one is above the law, and we are able to hold everyone to account. And so the first prize for me is for this system to work. If someone has done wrongdoing, there must be corrective action. That's why in terms of the Constitution, they talk about remedial action, in terms of remedying what has been done wrong. So we're supposed to remedy the situation. And of course, I don't understand the system to be punitive, but there is a criminal justice system in this country, which should probably then take it further, and if needs be, punish people for criminal activity.
Kevin, thank you very much for having been my guest.
Thank you very much.
Right? Because otherwise, the Public Protector's office will be reduced to a talk shop, and people will say,
yes,
there's the Public Protector's office again. Not much is going to happen, and we don't want to see that.
People must not be armchair critics. They must understand that there is work that is going on, and the work is being done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's all we have for you. Thank you for joining the Modise Network, and we invite you to tune in again next week from us. Enjoy the rest of the day.